Hi there, another pub, another wild camp. I'm actually at the Norfolk Arms at Ringinglow. Beautiful pub. It's got fantastic selection of beers, great food and a fantastic view over the city of Sheffield, but today it hasn't got that view. It's a real November day, misty, foggy, but I set these 2 days aside for a wild camp and that's what we're going to do. As you can see, we're at Ringinglow and I'll be camping up on the moors, up from here, and a lot of you will probably know where I'm going to camp as it's up Ringinglow. But this is Barnsley Bitter, or a revived version of it. Now the main reason for this camp, if I need one, which I don't, is just to have a enjoyable time in the tent, cooking some nice food and having a few drinks. The perfect wild camp. And as it's November, I thought it was time to sort of get my winter gear out. My Soulo tent hasn't been out for quite a few months, so I basically brought all my winter gear with me, and I can go through it with you, show you what I've got, and just make sure it's all in good condition, and I know what I'll be taking on future camps in winter. So there's no pressure with this one. I've not far to walk, and it's a very easy-going camp. So I'm going to finish this off. I might have another pint, I think, and then we'll set off strolling up to the campsite high up on the top of the moors. I'll see you on the way up. Cheers, them. I think this pack's getting heavier. Whew. I don't know about checking up Kinder and Bleaklow with it. We'll have to see about that. Anyway, not far to go on this one. Pleased to say we have arrived at the campsite, and I am sat on a very familiar rock. It's like an old friend, this rock. Now I must have camped here at least over the last 10 plus years. I found it on my very early days of YouTube. Remember making earlier videos up here. But I have camped here through spring, through winter, through wind and rain, all weathers and all seasons I've camped up here. And I'm proud to say that a lot of local wild campers to the area have actually named it as Pat's Place, which is a bit of an honour, which is a big honour, I must say. But it isn't my campsite, it is open to anybody that can find it. But it is basically what I would call a perfect pitch. It's pretty level in the middle of the heather, hidden from the path. It normally has fantastic views over Sheffield, but you can't see a thing today because this is November and thick fog. It's easy to get to, and it's everything you want. It makes a perfect place just to nip up and do a local camp. The weather today is very strange. I don't think I've ever camped up here in such still weather. There's hardly any air at all, there's nothing moving. There's mist and fog all over, so you can't see anything. And normally I would pitch my tent with the door open towards the city, and then you can look at the sunrise, you can look over the lights of the city at night, but it's completely still. So I'm thinking I'm going to turn my camp the other way. There is a gentle breeze I occasionally feel coming in from the east, so I've got quite a bit of cooking to do. So I've thought of setting my tent up this way, and I can cook in the shelter of my tent. But yeah, several fellow YouTubers use this campsite, and it is just such a wonderful place. Every time I camp up here, I feel like I'm adding another memory to this spot. So occasionally I'll walk by here. I forgot to mention there is a logbook, so we can log in our camps, our visits, anything. And I haven't looked at that logbook for probably 2 or 3 months. But I quite often will walk by here, come and sit on this rock, remember, God, that winter camp, or can you remember when that wind were howling? I thought I was going to lose my tent. And there is so many memories attached to this site. Anyway, let me think. So we will have a look, well, I'm going to look at the logbook later on. But I think now we ought to get on and get the tent up. I'm alright for time, like I say, it's a very relaxed camp. But I'm going to look around, get my my Soulo, which hasn't been out for 6 months, get my Soulo pitched, and get all my gear moved in. And then settle down for what will be a long night. 14 hours is it of darkness at this time of the year, but I'm looking forward to it. I see you in a little bit. That's my camp set up, tents all pitched, all my gear's moved in. There's no rain forecast, but just in case, best to have everything under cover. Now it's probably about 6-7 months before, well, since I last used my Soulo tent last winter. So it's good to get it out again and make sure everything's okay. I know a lot of people say Hilleberg Soulo is overkill for the UK climate. Well, I disagree. Our climate is usually in winter wet, windy and cold. I see some of the tents that the really lightweight campers go out in, and well, I know where I'd rather spend the evening. You're in here a long time. I want to have a secure and safe camp and feel secure. I want to be warm, I look at some of the lightweight stuff out there, and I think, now, give me my Soulo every day, any day. Yeah, I carry a bit extra weight, but I know whatever the UK climate throws at me, I will be safe and secure and warm in this tent. I probably put more emphasis on a comfortable and enjoyable night in the tent. I can understand people going for the lightweight option to walk 15-20 miles and then camp or survive the night ready for the next day. I enjoy the camping side of it probably more than the walking side of it. But yeah, anyway, that's everything set up. So if you come down here, I'll show you inside, a quick look at the winter gear I'm using and a few mods I've done to this tent in the summer. Looking in the tent then, you can probably see Exped 7 mattress, a little bit heavier than my summer one, but I've got 7 centimeters and it's down-filled as well, so it gives me that extra bit of warmth from the ground. I've got some down booties there, they're Exped, so they will keep my feet warm. And then the only other thing really is the sleeping bag for winter. Now that is a Rab Ladaka, but I'm afraid to say it's 2005 I bought that, so that's getting on for 20 years old. And it is a bit heavy, but it is nice and warm. I suppose, I don't know how to describe it, but I like to be warm when I sleep. So I want a down bag that it probably will be down to -15, -20 C. Obviously we ain't going to reach them temperatures, but that is the sort of bag I want to keep me warm and comfortable. I'm getting older. Now the bag I've got there weighs 1,820 grams, so it is quite heavy. To replace it with its equivalent would cost an awful lot of money, and I might only camp in winter, I don't know, less than half a dozen times, once a month, something like that, so I can't really justify replacing it. But we'll have to see. But I have got a compression sack that does really squash it down, and I'll probably live with it. I just have to carry that weight. But yeah, that's basically my winter setup, which isn't much different to my summer one. It's better mattress, better sleeping bag, keep my feet a bit warmer, and that's it really. If it was snowy and really bad, I wouldn't be using a gas stove. I'd be using my liquid fuel Whisper Light. But everything else basically stays the same. Now, just move that out of the way, through the summer months, my youngest son left home and his bedroom became available. So I set my Soulo tent up in there, and it was really interesting. You could have a close look at the construction of it. Normally, you put it up in the garden to make sure you can put it up, and then it's on a camp, and you very rarely looked at it. So I set it up in his bedroom, and I had a very interesting scene how it was constructed. And one thing I was aware of, it was a bit limited with the pockets. You just got those 2 top pockets there. So I took the inner out. Well, actually, what I did, I went and bought an old inner off eBay. I forget what tent it was, for about 15 quid, and just used the material. And I managed to put in 2 inner pockets down there and another pocket down at the bottom. So now I've a lot more pockets and a lot more storage area. We have so many little electronic bits, phones, glasses, batteries, headlamps, and you need somewhere to put them. So the pockets, first time I've used it. See how I go with these extra pockets, but I think they will be really useful. It wasn't easy. You had to sew slipping materials in the middle of the inner, so it meant threading it all underneath the foot of the sewing machine. But hopefully they should transform my storage requirements. Just made myself a nice cup of coffee. I was ready for that. God, you lose the daylight so quick. It might not look it. It's 4:30 and it's starting to go dark. So before we lose the light completely, I thought I'd just show you what I'm going to try and cook tonight. The plan is to cook a stew, a nice meat and vegetable stew from scratch. So I've got my big old Trangia pan. It's about the biggest one I could find. Now if we were to cook a stew at home, I'd stick it all in a casserole, leave it for about 3-4 hours. Can't exactly do that with camping. So I have thoughts of pre-boiling doing the onion and meat. Right, we'll see what we've got. There's the stew meat. So we've got stew meat, an onion, vacuum sealed. So I'm going to fry them in the pan, and that should brown the meat, soften the onions. Then add the stock, wherever that is. There is a stock cube somewhere. It will turn up. I've then got a bag of carrots, celery and swede, and I'm going to pre-boil those in that pan. Add them to the main stock pot. Some potato, pre-boil, add to the pan. Now, I don't know what you think that looks like, but I left it on the table before I was coming camping, and my wife says, "What's that?" I said, "Well, it's pot. I'm going to smoke some pot while I'm camping." To which she said, "It looks like mixed herbs to me," which is right as well. She obviously knows me. So that's some mixed herbs. So they'll be going in as well. Corn flour to thicken it up at the end. So hopefully at the end of the day, on this rather dull, getting cold November night, we're going to have a pan full of beautiful meat, vegetable potato stew, and I am looking forward to it. For a sweet, you probably can't see that. That's a very lopsided tiramisu. It came up at a funny angle. I'm hoping, and I feel like the stew is going to really fill me up. So I might, I'll eat that. There's nothing to it. I'll eat that in the end. And to wash it all down, we've got a nice bottle of Spanish Rioja, a nice bottle of red wine, in a proper glass, I might add. None of this, I'm going to drink me wine out of a titanium cup. No. So that will be tonight's menu. Hopefully it'll work out and it'll give me a nice warm filling meal. So we have made a start with the stew. That's the carrots, swede and celery all simmering away. Just going to parboil them until they sort of partially cooked and soft. So with the veg sort of semi-prepared, just softening the onion and browning the meat now. So we're nearly there with the stew. Most of it's in the big Trangia pan there, all I've got in here is the potatoes. I'm just going to parboil them, and once they're more or less done, transfer them over into the main stew pot, and then just simmer it for about 10 minutes so all those flavours can sort of meld and merge together. So yeah, we're nearly there. I am starving. That tiramisu I've got here keeps looking at me, and I've nearly eaten it, but no, that's for the sweet. I must leave it alone. But it's looking good. It's looking good. I think we'll say that's done now. Never mind 10 minutes. It's been sat here for about 20 minutes simmering away. But yeah, I think we'll say the stew is ready. Everything's cooked nicely. I think if it had been casseroled in an oven, the meat would have been a bit tender. When you sort of do it on a stove or a hob, the meat is never as tender. But everything's eatable in a way, yeah. It is very nice and that. And it is very warming. It provides such a warming meal. A class of stew is a very healthy meal. It's got your protein with your meat, your vegetables that we all know are good for us, and your potatoes for your carbohydrates. So yeah, and it's warm, so it's a perfect meal, I think, for a November night out on the moors. And a drop of red wine just goes down so good. Yes, a very nice meal. So I'll finish this off. I've also got my tiramisu, or is it tiramisu? I've no idea. It is a little bit lopsided, but I'm sure that will taste very nice. So I'll finish my meal with that, finish the wine off, I dare say, and I'll see you in the tent in a little bit later on. See you for now. But yeah, for a camp stew, it was very nice. I'm afraid we finished the bottle of wine. It just seemed to go. I think while I was waiting for the stew simmering, the wine just disappeared. And I've not brought any whiskey, so there's nothing else to drink. I will have a cup of hot chocolate before I go to sleep. Now, I think on my last video I had a bit of a moan about YouTube, basically because my views had dropped off. But I think it's affected a lot of other wild camping channels as well. I suppose for myself, I don't suit the YouTube algorithms of putting a video on, don't matter what the quality is, but if you put something on every week, they put their adverts on and they seem a lot happier with that. It suits me just to put a monthly video on. That's what I've always done, but perhaps that doesn't suit YouTube. But I got so many comments of support, you could say, that yeah, I realise the view count, it brings me a bit of money in, but at the end of the day, I do this as a hobby and I like sharing my adventures, and I think it's your support and your comments that count a lot more than the money that YouTube give me. So no change there. We'll just carry on as normal, and I'll carry on putting my videos on as I've always done, probably each month or something like that. But yeah, I'm trying to think where I've been. Oh yeah, I think now I did I was told if you put shorts on, it will probably do your algorithms good. So I occasionally put them on. I haven't put many on, but I did put one on a couple of weeks ago. I'd been to Copenhagen for the day, just a day trip, extreme day trip basically. How much can you do in one day? But I flew out to Copenhagen. I got about 8 or 10 hours there, so loads of time. I saw everything, the Little Mermaid, I can't remember now, it's a while ago, New Haven, with all the brightly coloured buildings, but it was very expensive. $8.50 a pint. If you wanted a meal, expect to pay 10 to 20 quid, and you weren't getting much for that. But that was just part of it. It was I like the travel. I get, when I do these trips, they're only a day trip, but I get to Stealth Camp, Manchester way, if I could say that, the night before, so that I can get into the airport quite comfortably, get an early flight out. I might not actually get back till midnight, so I just get back to my car and then I've got a comfy night's sleep. Now my Copenhagen trip, like I say, I put a short on just to say what I was doing, and that was it. But it didn't end there really. After I put the short on, I got to the airport and my flight had a bit of a delay on it. Couple of hours to start with, so I got a bit of compensation. They gave me €3 compensation because the flight was delayed, and I managed to buy a bottle of water with that. Anyway, things moved on. Eventually my flight should have been back at 10 o'clock at night. I didn't actually take off till 1:45 in the morning. So I got nearly like a 4-hour delay by EasyJet. But the captain said, look, the reason was there was no crew. They've been flown out from Liverpool. So put your claims in. So I thought, yeah, I put my claim in. And I put a claim in saying, yeah. And 6 days later, well, in reply, they said, yeah, you're entitled to compensation. 6 days later, I got a cheque for 220 quid. The flight only cost me £20, Copenhagen back to Manchester, and they gave me 220 quid, so that pays for another couple of trips. But yeah, I had a good time. I think I did 30,000 steps walking around Copenhagen, and because I was in the airport for another 4+ hours, I did another 5,000 steps walking around the airport. I know every part of Copenhagen airport. I know every bottle of duty free they serve. I hadn't had much to drink in the day because it was $8.50 a beer. But when I got to the airport, realised I was delayed. I had a few more beers there, but it were £8 a pint really. But just part of the adventure, you could say, of doing these one-day trips. And following on from that, I did find a couple of fantastic Facebook sites. And they're known as Extreme Day, EDT, yeah, Extreme Day Trip, put your airport in. So I look at Extreme Day Trip Manchester, that's a Facebook site, and everybody puts their trips on. And you can just put in Barcelona, and everybody will tell you about their trips to Barcelona, best restaurants, cheapest way of doing this, what to go and see. And I thought I was the only one doing these one-day trips, that most of my friends and family think I'm ridiculous in doing them, and it would appear there's a whole 100,000 people doing these trips, so I'm not the only one.
and the idea is you do a day trip and you get not so much, you just go somewhere in a day, an early flight there and a late flight back, and do as much as you can in one day. And I think they are fantastic. I get 2 stealth camps as well, like. But yeah, it was an eye-opener, and this Facebook site was fantastic for the information they gave out. So yeah, I hope to do more trips. I've got, where am I going? I think in another couple of weeks I'm going to Alicante for a day. I nearly picked Valencia. I was going to go to Valencia, and look what's happened there. Anyway, I'm going to Alicante, and I think that's okay. Although I've just been listening to my radio tonight, and I understand Barcelona airport is flooding. So, unbelievable what's happening down in Spain. But yeah, I'll be off to Alicante in a couple of weeks. Actually it's about 3 or 4 weeks. But I will try and put another short on, just to keep in touch with you and let you know what is happening. It is really nice to be camping back up here. I probably camp up here about twice a year, but each time I camp here, you cast your mind back to previous camps, and it brings back so many memories of memorable camps in the snow, or the howling winds, or the red hot summers. I've had so many different camps up here, and it's always great to come back. I really enjoy it. It's like visiting an old friend, it is. And it's great that we've got the logbook as well. I did have a look at that earlier, and I was surprised though there wasn't so many entries for these last, say, 2 or 3 months. Probably only about 6 or 8 entries, something like that. I thought there would have been more, but yeah, the book is getting full, so whoever's in charge of the logbook, we might need another one next year. What happens to the old one, I don't know, but yeah, there is a lot of memories in that book for a lot of people. We've all filled it in, so it wants looking after, whoever is in charge of it, custodian of it and that. But yeah, I filled it in, yeah. 4th of November, that's me, I filled it in. But yeah, it is such a lovely spot to return to. Now, it must be for November, it's one of the quietest nights I've ever had in weather conditions, and one of the mildest. I can't believe it. There's no air outside at all. There's no breeze or anything. The tent's completely still. I could see me getting a bit of a problem with not compensation, condensation. Up to now it's bone dry, but I've had the door open most of the night while I've been cooking. But I could imagine with no breeze or no wind, I might get a bit of condensation. What I'll do, I'll open all the vents. I'm not putting this central divider down on the inner. I'll leave the tent fully open the door, and hopefully that will keep the condensation down. But yeah, strange conditions. Normally it's howling a gale up here, or torrential rain, or anything that Mother Nature wants to throw at you, but it's as still as anything tonight. But hopefully, because it's quiet, I might get a decent night's sleep. Well, I think it's probably time for me have a last drink of cocoa, and then perhaps look at my phone for a little bit, and then hopefully I shall drift off into a pleasant night's sleep. I'm certainly not going to be woken up by the wind howling round or anything like that. It is so quiet. So nice to chat to you, and I'll see you in the morning. Night then. Well, good morning. Let's have a look outside here. Well, we're not going to see much this morning. It's either low cloud or fog. But again, it's perfectly still. Look at the tent. Nothing's moving on it at all. And not too cold as well. Anyway, time to get a bit of breakfast on, I think. Anyway, that's the water boiled for my coffee. And hopefully enough left in there for some porridge and some golden syrup in my pocket. That should make a nice breakfast. Very easy as well. Oh, just gotta have a very hot at the moment. Got a little titanium kettle here. Got to be careful with porridge that you don't burn onto the metal. So I'm just going to take this very slowly. I'll use that. I think I'll put a bit more water in and bring it back to a simmer. So I'm going to enjoy this, and I'll see you then probably when everything's packed up, and we'll check the site, make sure we've not left anything. See you in a little bit. A very November-ish morning. So still, not a breath of air, and fog. But at least it's not raining. Very nice. Time to get packed up. Just having a last look round, make sure I've not left anything. I have signed an entry in the log book, and the last thing I want is for somebody like Sarah to come running by tomorrow morning, find some rubbish I've left, look in the log book and see who it was. So you are sort of
extra accountable for this site, especially if you've signed in the logbook. But I know we don't leave a trace anyway, wherever we are. But yeah, it's just how I found it. Now, last night I had no condensation in the tent at all. My Soulo performed perfectly. It was very still and very damp, the sort of conditions you'd expect to get condensation, but I had nothing. I had got the tent door half open, so it was well ventilated. That will probably have helped. The outside of the tent is absolutely soaked. You can probably see there's like a layer of water over everything, so it's going to take a bit of drying out, my Soulo. I reckon it'll be hung up in the garage for a few days until it's perfectly dry, ready for its next outing. Now we're in November now. Next time I see you will probably be right at the beginning of December. Like I say, around that time I've got my trip to Alicante, and I will try and put a short on. I know they're not everybody's cup of tea, but it's only a minute, and it doesn't take much doing, and it sort of keeps in touch with everybody. Immediately after I come back from Alicante, I'm going out on a Wildcamp. Got it all planned, should be a good one. So there'll be a Wildcamp coming on, and then later in December, probably just before probably around the 18th, before Christmas, I'm going to put like a bit of a review on, so we can have a look at what we've done this year, and also look what I might be doing next year. Not that there'll be too much difference, but it's something to chat about, and it will be in the pub shed, so we can spend an hour chatting away and sharing a few drinks as well. So it's time for me to head back down to Ringinglow village, where I've left my car. I would normally walk off that way and disappear into the mist, but the grass looks very, very wet, so I'm going to stay to the path. So I shall slowly edge backwards, and by then I'll see you in December.